So what's a student loan, right? So student loan is a way to finance your education. Most of the time you can use student loan money for housing, to pay your tuition, which is going to class, living expenses, some books, and any other fees. Colleges tend to have a lot of technology fees that are in there. Some colleges have an advanced book buying charge. So there are a few different fees that you can use your student loans for. Student loans come in a variety of different ways. The first way is federal loans. Those are coming out of the US government. That means you're borrowing money from the US government. And a lot of those come from filing a FAFSA form. So a FAFSA form is essentially your student aid form. So if you are in high school and you're getting ready to go to college and you've already made your decision on where you're going to go, the next step is going to be filling out that FAFSA form. You do that in conjunction with your parents, but it will incorporate earned income that you may have as a student, but it is a nice way to try to figure out if you qualify for those federal loans. More in depth, those come into two different ways. There are the subsidized loans and unsubsidized. So subsidized means it's on a needs-based loan, which is by the government. It does have a fixed interest rate over time. And again, it is a loan that you're going to repay to the government. Unsubsidized means you're not necessarily in a needing position, which means you might be above a certain income level and your family might be above a certain income level. And these loans are also, they can be used to help pay tuition. They also have a fixed interest rate. When you take those loans out, you're going to be assigned an interest rate at that point in time. So when you do take them out, you want to make sure that you keep the documentation that just says, hey, this is the interest rate that you're getting now. That rate will carry with you as long as you don't consolidate those loans. That will be the rate that you have for the duration of your loan. Private loans, these come from, right, banks. I remember HSBC used to do a lot of the loans for college and tuition. They can be used for grad school as well. When you do, you don't get any federal loans for grad school because they primarily go to undergraduate. So a lot of that is funded through private loans and scholarship programs for graduate school. So you just want to make sure that you're aware of what loans are coming to you. When you fill out a FAFSA form, some schools will automatically provide you with a private loan and a federal loan. So you just want to make sure you know what you're getting. I think that's about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I would add there are a couple things. I hear a lot of parents say, well, we're not going to file the FAFSA form because, you know, we're not going to get aid. You absolutely want to file your FAFSA. That's how you access even your unsubsidized loans. That's the start of the process. And then also it creates a track record or a baseline for if something happens and to income in the household, you can file an amendment. So I think that's a big, you know, myth that I see, that if I make too much money or the family makes too much money, that we don't need to file a FAFSA. So you definitely want to do that. And I think the student loan conversation is very timely because for people with student loans, the federal government just came out with the application for the federal forgiveness. So that's important that the federal loans qualify for this forgiveness, but private loans do not. And we're also saying, don't go into this. If you're taking out a new loan, don't expect future forgiveness. So I think I've heard some people talking like, well, it's going to be forgiven. We're just going to take out all the loans that we could possibly take. And there's no guarantee. Nobody knows what future administrations will do, but I wouldn't expect that there would be any future forgiveness. So any loans that you'll be taking out here in the short term, expect to fully repay them. Also on that, go ahead, Ange.
Oh, no. And to your point, and I think what's important too is they will send you checks. You know, if you're going to school and you fill out the FAFSA form and you have a need that's kind of left with your tuition, you have to be very careful. This has personally happened where I filled out the form and they suddenly gave me a loan. So a check arrived. If you don't need that money, you can always send that check right back. You don't incur any interest on that. You just send that back and say, no, thank you. As long as you never cash it, you're in a good position. So you do want to be cognizant of that because those things do tend to happen. And consolidating your loans too, once you're out of school, right? Because you can have, if you're in a 4-year school or perhaps you go on to grad school, you're going to take out those loans at different interest rates. It's going to be different environment. And a lot of times consolidating those loans together does help with a repayment plan. That does not take away whether your loans were federal or private. It still keeps those in those categories. It just makes sure that, you know, you might be beneficial in doing that and making repayments and getting a better interest rate.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ange, because I've seen where the federal loans are really, you know, they're going to be your best interest rate. They're going to be your better loans, and you want to be careful if you are going to consolidate that you do that with either the same or another federal servicer, right? So Navient or Nelnet, they change all the time. But if you consolidate a federal loan with a private loan company like a bank or a SoFi is a big student loan consolidator, they can lower your interest rate, but you might give up some of your other benefits like forgiveness upon death or forgiveness if there's ever another administrative program. The private loans do not qualify for that, so you want to be careful there. The other point I would make on the interest, that second to last bullet point, that the interest that accrues when you take either the subsidized or unsubsidized. So what that means is if you take out a loan and it has a 5% interest rate, it'll be charging you interest. Now this is also on really for the unsubsidized loans, is if you can choose to defer that interest until you're done with school, and that interest just gets added to the principal of your loan. So as an example, if you took out a $5,000 loan and there was $500 of interest that accrued over the time period you were in college, at the end of that, when you're done, you'll have a $5,500 loan that you'll start to pay the government back on. You do have the option, which you should consider, of paying the interest as you're going through school. Now, this works if you're not going to work and you're not going to earn income. That may not be an option, but for the students who either have money in the bank or they do work throughout school and have the ability to do that, it just saves you future loan payments. So that's one way to kind of get ahead of your loan payments.
So interest rates on the student loans, right? And something to think about, similar to when you take out a car, right? The higher the interest rate, the higher you're going to pay every month. So you want to take that into consideration. If you are someone who is using the private loans, you can shop those as well. So similar to a car, right? You can go to different financial institutions and see what they're offering for interest rates for loans. So again, the higher the interest rate, right, this is going to cost you more money at that loan. So Sean's point, if you're able to, you know, some of them, they'll let you pay that interest as you go. So that'll kind of keep that loan payment down. But right, that increases what you are going to have to pay back. Very similar to any other credit that you take out, right? If you don't pay it back, it just kind of gets added on over and over time. When you choose a longer repayment term, they'll typically give you a higher interest rate, right? Because they want to make sure that they get their money from you, but it's going to be stretched out over a period of time. So there's a cost to that. And that's where they tend to charge you a higher interest rate. Your credit score, right? Kind of previous to some of our slides, we talked about earning that credit score and how to get those numbers up. And when you go to take out a student loan, they will look at your credit score to see what kind of rate they're willing to give you, right? Your credit score says, like, I'm dependable. I've paid my bills. I have proven that I can pay somebody back when I borrow money from them. And that's what a financial institution kind of looks for. Say, hey, this person can pay me back. I'm willing to give them a better interest rate because I feel like I'm going to get my money back. And interest on student loans do compound monthly. So you just want to be aware of that for the length of time that you do take that student loan out. And just as a quick, what is an interest rate? I think we've talked about it a lot, but maybe not totally explained what it is. So it's an amount that's charged. They'll give you an annual rate, but it can be charged a variety of different ways, from daily to weekly to monthly to annual. And it's just an extra charge above and beyond what you've already borrowed from them, right? And it's a way for a financial institution to make some money while they've earned, right? While you've borrowed their money.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Angela. I think I've seen some clients who, you need to pay attention to the rates you're being charged on all of your debt, right? So whether it's a student loan or a credit card, right? You don't want to have an 18% credit card balance out there when you could have a 5% student loan, right? I've seen people pay for their college on a credit card, maybe because they didn't file their FAFSA or they didn't understand the process, but you definitely don't want to pay more interest than you need to. And I think on the repayment terms as well, to Angela's point, is some student loan servicers will give you, different time periods you can pay your loan back. And as Angela said, the longer you choose, the higher the interest rate. But it's a little deceiving because when you look at your interest rate, your payment will come down. But when you actually look at what you're paying over the life of a 25-year repayment, you could actually be paying double the amount. If you take out a $20,000 student loan, you could be paying $20,000+ in interest. Versus if you take a shorter repayment, say 10 years, your monthly payment's going to go up, but the amount you're going to pay in interest is going to go way down. So those are just things you need to consider as you're making those decisions.